Hello and welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to the extra time match review for the Everton 1, Fulham 1 game that took place on Saturday at Goodion Park. So let's just get straight into things. I think we'll touch overall on the game later on, but if we go to before the game, going into the game, I was pretty pessimistic, if I'm going to be honest with you. A lot more pessimistic than I feel like I usually am, and that's saying something sometimes with this team. Fulham are a very good side, a team that really look like outside contenders for maybe a Conference League spot, possibly higher this season with the football they've been playing and the talent they have. But we had some good signs going into the game. Dwight McNeil looking like one of the best creators in the Premier League, a rejuvenation in form for both Ashley Young and Michael Keane going into it. So there was some hopes going into it, but I also did have some worries that were highlighted in the game of where we were going to score the goals. Could Calvert-Lewin find those scoring form that he really needs to find even still now? And I feel like a lot of those questions were answered during the game, to be honest with you. And so if we go into the starting 11, the big news, of course, being that Jared Bamford was left on the bench for Michael Keane. And if I get the starting lineup here, I'll quickly read it out. It was Pickford, Young, Tarkowski, Keane, Mikalenko, Decore, Gay, Harrison, McNeil, and Dye, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. What you'd expect, really. And I think a lot of fans were annoyed, myself included. I don't see this Michael Keane improvement in form as big as some other people do, really. To be completely honest with you, I think it is a little bit misleading, although I do think the performances have improved. But that's not saying much considering he was playing like a bottom half championship centre-back at some points. But there was a clear improvement. I can understand why Dyche kept him in and also doesn't want to rush Bamford in for a potential another injury like what happened last time. So I get it from his part, and in the end it kind of worked out, really. So I kind of understand his decision making. Besides that, what I expected, really. I think going into this game, a lot of players had something to prove, like players like a Harrison, a Decore, and a Calvert-Lewin, who had been dreadful over past games. Mikalenko too. And I think we got some answers from a few of them. I think if we just go straight into the game, the first half was what I really expected. You know, if I scroll down a little bit here on the facts section on FootMob, you see the momentum was all Fulham. We had a little spurt towards the end of the first half, but not really too much to really control the game, and it looked like Fulham were the team that were going to take the game over. I think it's one of those where I'm not really surprised. You know, if we look at the first half here, Fulham had 8 shots to our 4, same amount of shots on target. That they had one big chance, which they did miss, of course. 288 passes compared to our 163, and overall, just a much better performance in the first half from Fulham. A lot of our shots came from the centre of the box, which is what you'd expect, trying to cross the ball in, trying to get it to Calvert-Lewin. But I think if you look at this first half, it's a story of defending, trying to get ourselves back into the game and trying to find an avenue into the game, something which I think we could have done, but I don't think the attack was really clicking. I don't think the attack was really there. I think this was a game that was much more decided by defending. I do think Dominic Calvert-Lewin had a few moments where he could have shot and just didn't. And obviously, of course, that doesn't show up on the statistics, but there was one specifically I can remember, and it's where he picks the ball up on the left side after a nice ball from I'm going to say, I don't remember who particularly played the ball out, to be honest with you, and he gets it. It's at a tight angle, don't get me wrong, but he has a clear path to shoot at the near post, and instead of shooting, he stops and looks around, which I understand he wants to try lay it across for an easy chance, but he should be looking up, realising that's there, and if no one's there, just shoot. I think it's the one problem with Calvert-Lewin I have, and it's the one thing that I think highlights his game, really, and I think it's important to look at his game and to really highlight what he did this game, because I think it was poor that he ended this game with a single shot that was right at the goalkeeper, to be honest with you. So I think it's one of those things where I think he was the big highlight in the first half for me, in a sense that I think there were moments where we looked like we could have capitalised, especially like I mentioned towards the end of the first half, and I just think Calvert-Lewin just wasn't able to capitalise on it. I think he wasn't there to just get the ball and fire it. I think there's a fear with him of shooting and missing a sitter or missing, and he wants to bring people into play, which I appreciate. He wants to be that well-rounded striker that can get people involved, but unfortunately sometimes he has to try take the game into his own hands, in a sense of just fire it. I wouldn't be nearly as mad if he got into the box and sometimes just cracked it. Because at the end of the day, you're a striker. It's your job to score the goals. I can understand it. He did create one chance, but again, I look at it here. Only 3 touches in in the opposition box. He was offside 3 times, dispossessed twice. Again, offside I expect with Calvert-Lewin, to be honest, but I think it's one where he has to do better, and especially with what happens at the end of the game, I think Calvert-Lewin really needs to realise that he needs to play as that goal poacher more than someone who just brings everyone else into play and gets around, because I do think with players like Dwight McNeil and Illiman and Dye, we have players who can bring the ball up the pitch now and can facilitate him playing as a more natural number 9, something which I think was his best role under Carlo Ancelotti. I understand he's evolved more of a player, he's improved technically a lot, which is a great sign, but I think he needs to find that goal-scoring knack, or it could see him dropped for Beto, Chimiti, or Broya, who should be back soon. I think there's a lot of faith in Dyson Calvert-Lewin. It wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't sack him, but at the same time, it's one of those things where how long can you keep going when your striker's not scoring goals? And I understand when we're winning and drawing games, we're not losing games, but we are only not losing this game because of another striker, not Calvert-Lewin. And I think it's one of those things where I'd really like to see an improvement. I really like Calvert-Lewin, and he's a player I have a lot of time for. But I just feel like these performances, more recently anyway, have just been abysmal in a sense of that he just doesn't. It feels like I'm watching a number 10 try to play, or he doesn't feel like a striker to me sometimes, and I think that's a damning indictment for someone who's meant to be our goal scorer this season. But that is all I have to say about the first half. I think going into the second one, it really looked like Fulham were here to take control. Now, you look at the second half compared to the first half, that we had barely any momentum. Fulham were constantly on us, constantly forcing us back to defend. And I think you see that more often with Fulham's goal. They just control. And then eventually in the 60th minute, Smith Rowe, lovely little run to get round. Then you see a little ball played into Iwobi and a fantastic finish from Iwobi at Pickford's near post. Iwobi terrorised us this game, to be honest with you. I don't want to sit and talk too much about Fulham's performance, but I think 2 players I want to cover specifically are the performances of Alex Iwobi and then the man who actually came on for Traore, I believe, in the 68th minute, Reece Nelson, who, according to places like FootMob, doesn't have the height rate, but I think he caused Ashley Young some real problems early on into his bringing on. But Iwobi more specifically, I don't think we should be surprised. Iwobi's a fantastic player and someone who I've spent a lot of time on the channel since I've been here, which is like quite a while now, praising Iwobi and saying how good of a player he actually is and how good he is at bringing others into the game. And you saw that against us. Played 89 minutes, got the goal, of course. And then, of course, also accurate passes. Gets the goal, 3 out of 6 successful dribbles, 5 out of 7 accurate long balls. He wasn't dispossessed once, still got himself a tackle and 6 recoveries. Won 60% of his duels, lost all his aerial duels, but I don't expect him to be winning all his aerial duels. But I think you see, in a system like Fulham's, how good a player like Alex Iwobi is, and maybe even this season he could have been for us. Understandably, had to go FFP. But of course, you see the quality there. Emile Smith-Rowe had a good game too. Again, caused real problems through the middle. Was able to drive and was the one who was able to lead to that shot for Alex Iwobi for the goal. In him being able to get round, I think Sander Berger had a pretty good game for Fulham too. But I do think it was Reece Nelson coming on and absolutely terrorising Ashley Young, which made it look like the game may have got out of hand. Again, I think Dyche made the subs a little bit late. Only making 3 of them again when we really needed it, and I think he did get very lucky with the Beto substitution, and it's a typical Everton overhit cross, falls to Ashley Young in the dying embers of the game, who plays a lovely little ball. Beto gets up and heads it home, and it was great to see Beto scoring, man. I'm someone who self-admittedly has slagged Beto off before, and probably will continue to do so if we see similar performances to what he's done so far in an Everton shirt, but the passion's there, and he's one of those players who you've seen you really want them to succeed because he clearly cares, as shown by his tears after the game, after scoring the goal. I think it's one of those things where it's nice to see a player show that sort of passion, and it's going to endear him to a lot of Everton fans, and that's probably going to lead to a lot of Everton fans asking him to start the next game against Southampton, which won't surprise me really. But I think it's now Calvert-Lewin's under a lot of pressure. I think he will start against Southampton, but I think he's going to have to perform now, because I think if Beto could come on and maybe get another goal, for example, off the bench, then Dyche is going to really have to have a decision to make. The players who played well, I think Idrissa played quite well. Did really well breaking up the play, creating chances, and he had that shot that ricocheted off the bar for the offside goal. I feel like I've got the right game. I've not got the right game for the offside goal from Calvert-Lewin, which, saying that, I forgot to mention that, looked a bit weird for me. I hope I'm talking about the right game here, but yeah, I think Idrissa was good again. I think he has been for this entire season, to be honest. I think he's been probably our best midfielder, to be honest. A bit quiet from the three behind Calvert-Lewin, Harrison, McNeil and Dye. Harrison was dreadful in my opinion, and really should be looking at getting dropped, to be honest. I just don't think Harrison should be starting games for Everton. I'd much rather have Jesper Lindstrom, who, while his product in front of goal is not the best, he gets in front of goal, he gets in these positions and offers a similar sense of pace of what to Harrison offers. But I really just don't think Jack Harrison should be starting for Everton anymore, particularly. But yeah, I think all of them were quiet, to be honest with you. I think there wasn't much for any of them to do. Weirdly, one player who is getting a lot of praise from FootMob is Mykolenko. When, I don't know, if you look at the eye test, he gave away that silly pass. I don't think he was as good. A 7.4, which would have him as our second best player. Yeah, our second best player behind Ashley Young. And I just don't think that's true. Sorry, our third best player behind Gay and Ashley Young. I just don't think that was true in the slightest. I don't think he was awful. I think he was pretty good defensively, but on the ball, he's a nightmare, and he's a fullback. He's probably on the ball the worst left back in the league, to be honest with you, and that's saying something with some of the other left backs in the league. But yeah, I just think the on the ball product from Mykolenko has to improve, and whether that's Ashley Young moving over to left back and someone else coming in, which is mental to say with how much, again, I'm first to admit that I've slagged Ashley Young off a lot, but again, the past few performances prove that he probably has to stay in the team. Because realistically, he's been one of the better performers in the past few games. It'd be horrific of Dyche to take him out now, and you have to commend Dyche a little bit for positioning with him. But speaking of Sean Dyche, there is still some pressure on him after this game, which is no surprise, really. I think we were flat. I think there was no inspiration. I think the subs were late. And I think the goal wasn't from anything to do with Sean Dyche, to be honest with you. It was a lot to do with, I get he made the subs, but I feel the subs were a bit late. I feel like we were able to catch Fulham, and we got very lucky being able to catch them, because it didn't feel like we were going to catch them all half, and then we were able to get them just at the end of the game, which I think we got very lucky to do. I think the pressure on Dyche is still going to be there, which is ironic considering we're unbeaten in 5. But again, I believe that's 3 draws, 2 wins, 4, possibly even 4 draws and a win. We beat Crystal Palace and Ipswich, yes. I think I may be wrong there, correct me in the comments if I am. But yeah, I think there's still some pressure on Dyche. I think performances in general need to improve. I think he needs to get a better tune out of the attacking players, not just McNeil, who did go off injured in the 86th minute, which is not particularly a good sign, because to be honest with you, if McNeil's not playing, I just don't see any creativity from this team, unless we give Ndiaye the keys, which hopefully he will if McNeil's injured. But yeah, without McNeil, it'll be a real problem, even against a team like Southampton, to be honest with you, who was still able to cause Man City a few little problems now and again. But yeah, I think there's still some pressure on Dyche. I don't think there should be any talks about sacking him, because again, there's no one really to replace him. But I can understand the sense of why there is still pressure on Dyche, because the performances just aren't there, to be honest with you. And it feels like we're relying on scratching and clawing a lot of the times. Even the Ipswich game, which was probably our best performance for a majority of the game, that last 25 minutes, we were getting dominated by a side that looks like they're going to struggle to win a game, to be honest with you. So it's one of those where we need to see a real improvement from the players and from Dyche tactically, to be honest, and with his substitutions. But that is all for this video. If you did enjoy, please make sure to like and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at Everton Newsfeed and follow me on Twitter at Callum Brannan3. Still, big result, 1-1, happy with it, and I think it's a good sign that we're now able to get points against solid teams like Fulham and these good teams like Newcastle. I think it's a good sign. But I will see you all for the next video and our live stream that I am on.